Hey y'all, and welcome to Trials to Triumphs. I'm Ashley Blaine Featherston Jenkins, but you can call me ABFJ. This week, Emmy-nominated host, comedian, and actress Nicole Byer talks to me about gratitude and authenticity in her craft. Nicole knows better than anyone how subjective comedy can be, but she's always trusted her brand of funny. Throughout her career, Nicole's learned that while she'll never be everyone's cup of tea, there is power in being unapologetically yourself. That relentless spirit has served Nicole in multiple ways, and she has so much gratitude for how far she's come.
I am so lucky that I was at the right place at the right time, because a lot of people just can't get to the right place at the right time who are so talented and who do have gifts to show people. I'm lucky that I was in New York at the time I was in New York. I'm lucky I moved to LA the time I moved to LA. Like, things just really happened for me in a way that, like, is kind of wild.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. I want to dig in, Nicole. Okay, we're going to start with tell us how we met. Tell the audience how we met, if you could, please.
We met on Grand Crew.
Mm-hmm.
And we met in the makeup trailer. And I feel like I was like, are you wearing makeup currently? And you were like, no, we haven't gone. No, I just got here. And I was like, your skin is flawless. You have great skin.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we met in the makeup trailer. And we just kind of hit it off, and then we would talk, in between scenes. And you were here's the thing. I want everybody to know this. I've worked in a lot of shows. I worked with a lot of casts. And, when you're coming in as a guest star, you were there to help move the series regulars' stories further. Like that, you're a guest, very much so. And Grand Crew is one of the shows, but one that really sticks out for me, where you all treated me like family from day one. And I didn't feel like a guest ever. I felt so embraced and loved and truly a part of a family. And, it's very much so an ensemble cast. It's all about these friends. So, every time I get a chance to tell one of you that, I try, because it's always stayed with me. It's something I really appreciate. And I'll always remember it.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like, that show is one of my favorite jobs. I am very sad that it was canceled.
I know. Ugh.
But I'm grateful for the time that I had. But that was one of the things I loved the most. We were instantly family, and I knew some of the boys before, but Gracie, I did not know. And truly, just and I didn't know Justin, but after the first day working, we were just I don't know, a family. It was just really nice and sweet, and it doesn't happen often.
I know. It's okay. We'll do something else. It's fine. But it sucks
hope so.
When good shows get canceled. It grinds my gears. It just stresses me out, and I get upset about it. So, but here's to Grand Crew.
To Grand Crew.
Yes. All right, Nicole, we're going to start with some icebreaker questions. Are you down?
Down, down, down.
Okay. If you could have starred in a 90s sitcom, which show would it be and why?
Absolutely Living Single. Yeah. It is such a funny show. I don't know what part I would play, but I just loved those women. I loved that the men were so not inferior or subordinate, but the women really took it to the next level, and they were all so funny. And the men supported them in a way that you don't see often.
Yeah.
And I just love, I read recently that Queen Latifah was the network asked them to lose weight, and she was like, no, this is what we look like. This is what women out there look like. And that made me so happy, because as a kid watching it, it never dawned on me that they should lose weight. And it never dawned on me that they look different than the other people on TV. I was like, these were women.
The people in the world, around you in the world. Yeah.
Yes. And I love that show.
Yeah. I got to work with Erica Alexander on Run the World.
I'm so jealous.
She's hilarious.
So funny.
She might be getting funnier as the years go on. Like it was to the point where I just was like in awe of the things that just the improving she was doing on set, like the levity she brought to everything. It just was really, it was one of those moments where I was like, I'm standing across from Erica Alexander. Wow. Like, just hilarious. It's such a great show. That's a good one. And I can see you in that one. That's a good one. I can see you in it.
Thank you.
Nicole, let's start at the beginning. Okay, so what did New Jersey give you?
I don't know if I've ever been asked that question before. What did New Jersey give me? New Jersey gave me New York City. I was an hour away from the city. I got to see a lot of Broadway shows in high school. I was just exposed to a lot of like, you know, gay people and people who weren't like me. So I think New Jersey gave me a bridge, literally, or a tunnel to this like creative mecca that was New York.
Who was the person that you have the earliest memory of being like inspired by, being like, ooh, I want to do that?
Probably Whoopi Goldberg. I saw her one-woman show. I think it was just called Whoopi. Maybe not. I don't know, but I think it was at the Lyceum on Broadway. It was the revival of her show. And it was a one-woman show, so it was just her on stage. There was like dramatic things, funny things, angry things. It was just so many different emotions she took you through. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be able to be like a singular, powerful thing that people could come see and be transported somewhere. It was so good.
How old were you?
I think I was in high school or maybe my first year of like school. So it was either 17, 18, or 19, one of those ages.
Okay, so what was your childhood like then? Like, were you exploring these parts of yourself before that, and then like seeing Whoopi kind of connected that dot?
So I wasn't like, I wasn't into theater or acting or anything like that as a kid. I did a lot of like gymnastics and dance. I do remember being the lead of my tap recital. We did Hit the Road Jack, and I was Jack. So I had a different outfit, and all the girls were like, get out of here. And I was like, I don't want to. And I have a distinct memory of being like, I am the star, okay? I am Jack. They're asking me to leave, but there's a reason, because I'm a star, and they can't shine without me, or they can shine harder without me there. But that's like my first memory of performing. And then in high school is when I truly started performing. My sophomore year was the first play I was in where I had a funny scene, and when the audience like erupted, I was like, oh my God, this is like crack. This feels good.
Yeah.
And it has never not felt good. Do you know what I mean? There's no time I've ever been on stage where the audience laughs and I don't feel some type of like, not even validation, but I'm just like, yeah, this is exactly where I need to be.
Yeah, I heard once, I forgot who said it, but they were like, you know, in reference to like being an actor, being on stage, being in front of the camera, that I think it was specifically about being on stage, like in theater, that like the moment you stop getting butterflies, like even just a little bit before you go out, then like something's changed in regards to like your relationship with your artistry. And, you know, at first I heard that and I was like, I'm not someone who gets nervous necessarily before I'm going out on stage, or like gets cold feet or like clammy. And so I thought it didn't apply to me, but there is a special feeling before they're like, all right, like pictures up, or, you know, before they're like, all right, we're, you know, right before the curtains go up, it's not a nervousness, but something's percolating inside, right? It's all connecting. It feels right. It feels like I'm in the right place. I'm excited to do it. And I'm just grateful that I still have that feeling. And it sounds like you still have that feeling too.
Oh, every time I got to drive on the Universal lot for Grand Crew, and then we were at Paramount the first year, every time I drove through, I'd be like, I get to work at a studio.
Yeah.
I get to like I think at Paramount we were on the same soundstage that Ghost was filmed on.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I get to step where Patrick Swayze like starting my day felt incredible. And then every time they'd be like, picture, like, yeah, it feels like the butterflies were heavy the very first day. And then as like the season rolls on, it's like, it doesn't go away. It's like, what new thing can we try? What can we improvise here? What can we work out together as a scene partner? Like it's so collaborative and it's so fun. And then when someone says something, we all break. It's like, that's magic. And I will say when I'm guest starring or recurring somewhere or coming in for a day, those butterflies are huge because I'm like, you chose me out of everyone you saw. Or it was just an offer, which means you didn't even try anybody else.
Yeah. You know, what I'm hearing, Nicole, is you're talking a lot about gratitude. Like, that's what I'm hearing. You know, when you're, you know, on the Paramount lot and, you know, you're just you're excited every time you're in the golf cart riding around and, you know, it hasn't gotten old to you. And so is gratitude, do you have like a very conscious gratitude practice in your life? Is it, you know, partly just because like, you know, what the struggle has been, you know, to kind of get to where you are, the journey rather?
I don't know if I'm super conscious of how much gratitude I have for what I get to do. I just know I'm so lucky that I enjoy my job, and I am so lucky that I was at the right place at the right time, because a lot of people just can't get to the right place at the right time who are so talented and who do have gifts to show people. I'm just really, really, truly, I was lucky that I started UCB at the time I started it. I'm lucky that I was in New York at the time I was in New York. I'm lucky I moved to LA the time I moved to LA. Like, things just really happened for me in a way that, like, is kind of wild. Like, my friend, she recently said, she was like, how did you get your first agent? And I was like, I took a class through UCB where it was with a commercial casting director. And then at the end, we wrote our own commercials. And then an agent came and watched us do these commercials that we wrote. I wrote mine. I still have it. I was cleaning out my desk and I just reread it. It's wild. I wrote a commercial for, I think, hot dogs. And I started this off with, I love hot, salty meat sliding down my throat.
No, you didn't, Nicole. No, you didn't.
And then like added, I was like, oh, with a nasty little, or something about like a bun. Like, it was just very sexual. And then I was not signed on the spot. Better story if I was. But like a couple months later, she was like, I cannot stop thinking about that commercial and how funny you were. I would love to work with you. Her name was Maura Maloney, and she was my very first commercial agent. And we worked together for a while. And when I tell people that story, they're like, so you wrote a fake commercial about meat sliding down your throat and you got work from it?
Wild.
And I was like, you know what? I've always been true to my brand.
True to yourself. Yeah.
You know, write what you think is funny, perform what you think is funny, or what you think is good, or what you think is powerful. You cannot tailor it hoping people will like it. You have to tailor it to yourself.
Yeah, because that's the way it resonates with the people it needs to resonate with. If it's not authentically coming out of you or from you, then it's not going to land on the people you want it to land on in an authentic and genuine way. So then it's kind of all a waste of time, right? So like, yes,
like, who are you doing this for?
Yeah, your commercial was ridiculous, but what the agent saw was you. So she was able to like you, and ultimately, it's always you that gets the opportunities. You know, it's not necessarily what was on the page. Yeah, no, that's
no.
good.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Who are some people early on in your life that like you remember got it? And when I say got it, like, I mean, got you. Like, maybe saw, like, okay, Nicole's got a little something going on with her.
I mean, my mother was like, she's the one who pushed me to do theater in school. She was just like, you talk a lot, like, go talk on a stage. And she came and saw my first show, and like someone was complimenting me, and my mother literally was like, well, if you thought she was funny today, you should have seen her yesterday. She was even better. And I was like, yeah, I see what you're doing, but like, just let me have it, please. But yeah, my mom, my dad eventually got on board. My friend Sashir, she and I work together on a lot of things. We also do a podcast together. We wrote a web series. I said to her, I was like, I want to do a web series that's like kind of like this. I'm not really a writer. And she was like, don't say that. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, the idea you're telling me, that's you wrote it. Like, you're telling me with your mouth, but like if you wrote that down, you wrote it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I didn't really write our first season. I kind of like edited what she wrote and like pitched jokes on it, or like gave her ideas here and there. And then our second season, I like wrote a couple of them. And then she's like, yeah, don't ever say you're not a writer. And I was like, okay. Then we wrote a movie together. And I wrote the first draft, and then she wrote it for people to read it. So like she would just add the details. But she was like, yeah, don't say you're not a writer. You do broad strokes, and then maybe someone needs to come in and do the finer details. Or you just take your time and really, go through it. But she's like, don't say that. And that was like a real turning point for me. Because like when I started doing stand-up, I was like, well, I'm not really a writer. Like I don't tell jokes. I just tell stories. But it's like, yeah, but like the beginning, the middle, the end with jokes in the middle, that you're writing. That's writing. So yeah, now I don't limit myself. I'm like, yes, I'm also a writer, even though I do have a little bit of imposter syndrome about it still. But it's like, yes, I write.
I love that. It's so, oh gosh, we talk about it so much on this pod, but like having the right friends is, it's everything in life, but especially I feel like in the entertainment industry. Like I think people forget sometimes that we are in an industry where like 99.9% of the time, we're just getting rejected. Like people are saying no. People are saying they don't get it. They don't see it. They don't want it. Just all of the things. And so to have a friend in your life that like sees the things in you that like you're trying to bring out of yourself, and she sees them so easily and in such clear, plain view, is everything. And it's life-changing. And I'm just so grateful and happy that you have that. I'm happy that I have that too, because so many people don't, Nicole.
A lot of people don't. And we get that question a lot, like on Best Friends. It's like, well, how do you get a best friend, or how do you make a friend? And I was like, I just started doing something. I loved performing. I loved comedy. So I went to a place where I could perform comedy. And then I met somebody else who loved what I loved. And then we just have a lot of like similar sensibilities. People think we're very different, but we are so similar. And then also maybe like in reality, more of the other person, of what people publicly think the other person is like. I'm very lucky that I found her. She's truly like, I don't know, God sent. It's like, like the Lord sent me the person I needed, because she's my person.
Yeah.
And she said to me once, she was like, I read a book. It's called The Relationship Elevator. And it says that like romantic relationships don't have to be the most important relationship. And she was like, I think our relationship's the most important. And I was like, mine too. She means the world to me. Like, and I hope everyone has at least one person like that in their life.
Yes. Okay, so I want to ask, you said your dad eventually came on board. What did that look like? What did like the not on board the ship look like? And how did he eventually get on board?
He just kept trying to push me in like he wanted me to go to like Rutgers, which is like the state university. And I was like, I must go to the city. He wanted me to, like math, like science. He was an engineer. So he wanted me to, do that. And I was like, no, thank you. I want to be a thespian. And then after school, he wanted me to come back to Jersey and like, not stay in the city with no plan. And I was like, I'm staying. I don't have a plan. And he sent me this like, it was like a job listing for a girl calling the numbers for the lotto. And then he was like, you could do this. Here's a job for you. And I was like, oh my God, he thinks I could pull numbers. I didn't go to school for that, but you seem to be okay with I'm choosing this and I'm not going to choose anything else.
Is there like a lesson that your dad maybe taught you, or an experience you had with your dad that like has always stayed with you and your mom too?
My dad was like, always make money. So I was like, okay, I could be in the city. I can have $500 a month rent, but I have to figure out how to make money. How do I make money? So, you know, you just got to like figure it out. So like I've always been good at like little jobs here, little jobs there, doing 100 things at once to try to like pay my rent. Am I a good waitress? No, but I made a lot of money waitressing. Was I good at working your front desk? No, but I also babysat on top of that and, you know, started coaching improv. Was I good at that? Absolutely not. I had no idea how to make people funny. I knew that I could say the same thing they said and make it funny, but I didn't know how to make them funny. I'd be like, hey, you fake it till you make it. You do that. So yeah, my dad always said, don't not make money, make money. So that was an important lesson to learn.
Yeah. What about your mom? What's something that like has stayed with you? Something she's given you that stayed?
She was a pretty lighthearted person, and she believed in people, and she was a very loyal person, and I'm pretty loyal to a fault. Like, I will truly let you push me right down the stairs, and I'll be like, you didn't mean it, did you? As I watch you push me. But I do think being loyal is a good thing. I take it a little too far, but that is something that I got from her.
That's beautiful. It's a great quality. And listen, you got to make this money, okay? Bills got to get paid. Yeah, that's real. Like, it sounds like he kind of gave you a hustler spirit, especially as an artist. Like, you never know what's going to happen. So you got to have multiple streams of income coming in so that you're not just relying on one thing, and not only one thing, but something that's incredibly unreliable. It's just...
I was also really stubborn. I never wanted him to like, because he did well. I grew up upper middle class. I don't know, which has been eviscerated by this economy. But I grew up in a nice. We weren't rich by any, like, we drove on our family trips, so like we weren't rich. But it was like, if I needed it, he would give it to me. But I was so stubborn that I was like, you don't think I can make it in New York on my own? I'll show you. And that really gave me a hustler mentality, because he was like, make money. And then I was also like, I'll make money and you won't help me. I will have 1,000 jobs, and I will be up all night, and I will do this, and I will perform. Yeah.
Do you feel, now that you're older and like have a very established career, do you still have that same type of spirit, or are you kind of pulling back on it? Are you still like in the, like, I want to have 1,000 jobs, losing sleep, I'm tired, but I'm working, I got money in the bank?
I'm so lucky that I don't have to hustle as hard, that I do have like a safety cushion. But I do like podcasting, which is why I do it so much. I love acting. That is like my joy. That's my heart. So when I get to do that, I feel so grateful. And then I do love stand-up. Like, I genuinely love all of the things that I do. So it's not a matter of like, gotta keep the hustle going. It just happens to be a good hustle. But I also get to do exactly what I love, and I can take a break from any of them at any time. And like, I'm at the point where I don't have to do anything I don't want to, which is really, really incredible. It was a hard thing to understand, to be like, oh, I can say no, or I can say yes to this thing that pays me $2, but like, I believe in, and I think it's great. So I think the mentality right now is like, is it fun? Will I like it? Do I like the people? Do I get to go somewhere fun?
That's real.
Yeah.
Love a trip. Love a trip.
Love a nice little paid for trip.
Love a job that'll take you on a trip in business class and get your points, okay? Okay, Nicole, paint the picture for me. What was going on in your life? And who was Nicole before she moved to LA?
Who was Nicole before she moved to LA? Nicole was in her early 20s. I was performing at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater. I was also in their touring company, so I would go to colleges and perform improv. I had done a very bit part on 30 Rock in the like a tag of an episode. So not even in the episode, it was a tag, but it was my first job. The crew was laughing. Tina laughed. Like I felt so, you couldn't tell me nothing. I was like, I'm on fire. And late night was really the only thing, 30 Rock and Girls. And I feel like that was kind of it for like the New York comedies. But I was like having fun. I was having like a good time performing, hanging out with Sashir, working at the UCB, babysitting, drinking, truly just like I had the best time in New York. I loved my time there. I learned so much. I had so much fun. I met some of the funniest, greatest people I'll ever meet in my whole life. Yeah, that was me before I moved to LA.
And what made you decide to move to LA?
My manager at the time was like, I think you gotta make a move. More stuff shoots in LA. And I had done maybe 1 or 2 pilot seasons in New York. And if you're listening and don't know what that is, it's just when all the pilots, the television shows that are new are filming their first episodes and they're casting, and it could go, it could not go, whatever. And I remember I can't remember this woman's name. She was at ABC, and it was an audition for Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. And I had done the audition, and my manager at the time was like, that was too big, that was too broad, but they needed it like yesterday, so you can't redo it. And I was like, oh my God. Also, I had no idea how to do a self-tape. Like, there was barely any instructions. I didn't know how far away I was supposed to be. But then I ended up getting called in for it. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, that maybe it wasn't too big. And this casting director was like, do you get told that you are too big and broad? And I said, yeah, that's literally what my manager said. And then you called me in. And she was like, you are so big, so broad. And she was like, but I'm going to tell you, it is better to be big and broad than small and nothing. Ooh. I can help you tone yourself down. I can help you take your performance down. It's so hard to get someone from a 0 to a 10. You start at a 10. So I can bring you down to a 5. And I was like, okay. And then she gave me some tips for self-tapes and like what to do in the audition. So I don't start at a 10, that I can show them that I can go to a 10, but like keep a little bit of like quiet intensity. Yeah. And I wish I could remember that woman's name. I will forever be grateful to her because again, she saw something in me and was like, I gotta let her know. Because a different casting director would have just been like, he doesn't know how to act for TV. No. But this woman really like spent like an hour and a half with me. Wow. And we made a tape, didn't go anywhere, didn't get it. But like, it's in my memory. Going to 66 and Broadway, I think is where they were located. Because I remember going to Barnes and Noble after. But yeah, very grateful for that woman. She was really, really wonderful.
So once you got to LA, did you immediately like it in LA? Were you like, did you have a moment where you wanted to go back to New York?
I wanted to go back to New York the minute I arrived in Los Angeles. I said, this is for the birds. This place sucks. I hate it. These are not my people. And then I had booked Girl Code. I auditioned, I think, a couple weeks before I left. Got Girl Code. Girl Code shot in New York because I guess New York is the only place with a green screen. And so they were flying me back and forth. So it was like I didn't live in LA. I was back in New York all the time with all of my friends and all of those people. And I think that was for like 2 or 3 years. And then when I was like, oh, I live in LA after Girl Code, I was like, oh, okay. And then it just took a while to get used to.
What do you love about LA now that like in the beginning you were like, I can't get with this. I'm struggling.
What do I love now? I mean, the sun. I was like, why is it so sunny all the time? Like, oh, what am I supposed to be happy and smiling all the time? And then I was like, you could be happy and smiling all the time. You could do that. So now I just love the sun. I love that it's sunny. I don't love how lonely you can feel, but then you just have to like, I don't know, poke yourself and be like, text a friend. Any friend of yours would be happy to hear from you. Yeah. And when you do text them, they are happy. So you have to just remember to reach out to people.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, you know, LA is so spread out because I hear people say this a lot about like the major difference between LA and New York. And I've never lived in New York, but I think it's just obviously people are just much closer together because of, you know, we're in apartments and whatever. But people are walking. You're taking the train, you know, you're just, there's more human interaction, whether you want it or not. But I could easily stay in my house and like not see anybody for 3 weeks if I didn't want to.
Yes.
Not even someone walking past my house, you know? So it can feel very isolating for sure.
That's what I really had trouble with. But I also had a roommate, so we would just keep each other company. But now I live alone. So now it's just like on me to be like, if you want to see a person, text them. Because you are right. It's like I could leave my house and take a 20-minute walk and still not run into anybody.
Which is wild. But the sun is shining. It's sunny.
It is. It's sunny and nice. Get a little tan.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about when you were Jack in the tap performance. You talked about how like you knew you were like the star. Like you felt it, you knew it. Have you always felt that? Do you think that's something that's like really helped your career and like really helped the way people see you? Is it something that like maybe you've had an experience where you started doubting yourself?
I don't know. I mean, I think we all have doubts, and I'm not going to lie to you and say that I parade through life being like, main character energy, I'm a star. Every night, like everybody else, I get like, oh, am I even funny? Does a single person like me? But I also have like ADHD, and I think that was super helpful as a kid because I didn't really have time to think of what other people thought about me until someone said something, perhaps. Ooh. So while I was Jack, you really couldn't tell me anything. But then maybe afterwards, if you said, that wasn't actually that good, then I'd be like, oh my God, they said it wasn't that good. But then I'd be like, but I kind of remember that arabesque, and I think they were just a little jealous. And then I'll be like, can we get ice cream? Like, I just didn't have time to like sit in things as a kid.
But did that change? I think the thing that happens with like those of us who are like start performing at a younger age, the thing that changes is like we can kind of become more jaded. Like we live more life, we have more rejection. You know, we end up being like, wait, people are really commenting on things that I feel very confident about. So have you had a moment, I guess, as an adult where that you can recall, like a specific moment maybe of where like it weighed on you in a way that maybe it didn't used to, and you recognize that it felt different now that you're older and have had more experience?
I mean, other people's opinions of me are not my business, and I don't know how I arrived there, but I mean, Girl Code was like the first thing where the public had an opinion about me. And a lot of people were like, her wig is trash. It was $30. So you're right. She's not funny. I am not funny to everyone. No one is universally funny. You are right. She's fat. Yes, I am. So it's like they meant for it to be mean. But to me, I was like, you're telling the truth. But to me, that wig looked okay. I looked in the mirror. I said, that's okay. And also, the network maybe should have supplied me a freshened up $30 synthetic wig. So not my fault. Fat. Yeah, okay, maybe I could change that, but I simply can't. It's already been shot. Not funny. That joke wasn't for you. Hopefully the next joke somebody else tells is for you. That opinion none of that bothers me because my check cleared. So like, why would I let that affect me? And throughout my whole career, I've truly just been like, if you don't think I'm funny, that is great. That is fine. I hope you find somebody who is funny to you, who might not be funny to me, because that's the way the world works. Not everything is about you for you. There's literally nothing you can say to me on social media, on Twitter, that is going to break my soul, because I'm just going to, like, what are you doing? I've never thought of you one time, and you are trying to break me? Where? From where? Where are you? Are you doing anything that makes you happy? Are you doing anything of value to the world? No.
This is good. This is good because that's a very tough quality to possess. Like to truly, and the thing is, Nicole, like people will say what you're saying and not really mean it, but you're telling the truth. Like you're telling the truth.
I literally wrote a book called #VeryFatVeryBrave because people were like, "You're brave for wearing a bikini." I was like, "Am I? Okay, well, I'll make a book about it." Okay, whatever. Because truly, nobody is saying something you don't already know, or it's just not true. If someone goes, "You idiot," guess what? Sometimes you are an idiot. Sometimes you have dumb times. Is that person lying? No. Did it feel good? Maybe not. But also, why would you let it affect you? Like, I just really don't think anyone can tell you something that you already don't know that's true or just simply not true. And then you move on. Why would you let someone you don't know affect you? Why?
Real. That's real. And, I think I've thought about this because sometimes I can get affected by like things. I'm emotional. I'm empathetic. I'm an empath. Like I feel a lot, which I think is like a blessing a lot of times. And then sometimes it can be cursing. It feels like a curse. But I think it's because it feels so foreign that I am intrigued by it. Like, how could someone have the audacity to say something like this to somebody? The thing is, too, it's not even me that I often feel like. It's when I experience people saying it, I'm just like, where are people getting this energy from that they feel like they can say just whatever they want to somebody? It really... But I want to have more of the disposition that you have toward it because it can't bother me as much. Like we don't even know these people. Like, who are they?
Yeah. Who are they? What are they doing? Are they happy? I used to like retweet a lot of people because I was like, well, you wanted me to see that. You wanted me to be affected by it. I'm not. But the least I can do is retweet it so you know I saw it. Does that make you feel good? I don't know. But I do wish we lived in a world where people just moved on. They go, "Oh, I don't like that." And they don't stop to tell you because they wouldn't do that in life. I would die if you were walking down the street and someone went, "Ma'am, your shirt looks like garbage. It looks like a baby puked on it. And I hope you die." Like... Nobody would say that to your face.
No.
So that's like another thing you have to remember when you read comments, that this person would never say it to your face. They wouldn't. They just wouldn't.
That is a thing. Or people are just truly unhappy. Happiness is, although happiness is contagious, it also can be like a repellent to people.
Yeah, happiness makes people upset. And yeah, it's not my business if you're mad about my nice life.
I love that, Nicole. I needed that. Nicole, what has been your takeaway from our conversation today?
Oh, that you're just lovely. And so yeah, I don't know. It was nice. It was a nice conversation. It felt like a nice way to spend an hour of my day. Yeah, it was just like lovely to reconnect with you.
Yeah, I love ditto. And, I think my takeaway is like, just like your confidence. Like, I think it's real and it's you and it's infectious. And, it's kind of like talking to you has been that reminder of like, Ashley, like, own even more the essence of who you are. It's all you got. You know what I mean? And it's gotten you this far. So like, look at how much further it can take you. So thank you for that reminder, Nicole. I needed it. I'm inspired by you in all of the ways. I mean, you're here as a guest on my podcast. You have 4 though. So I'm like, okay, like, yes, so many things that you're doing are things that I'm really excited to also one day do in my career. And you've always been so kind and so supportive. So I'm just grateful to call you a friend.
I feel like you are so confident. Like, I feel like, I don't know, you just have this like air of like confidence and like you feel like a real grown up and you seem responsible.
Thank you. I am.
I would like a little bit of that. I feel like I come off as a big kid and I don't know how to change that.
But there's something beautiful. And I think that's the thing, like those things complement each other. You know what I mean? So we were drawn to each other, and I want to be a little bit more childlike. I don't want to be adulting over here all the time. Like, you know, there's a beautiful balance in that. So thank you.
Thank you for being wonderful.
We did it, Nicole. You're the best.
We did it.
Thank you for listening. This podcast is produced by LWC Studios for OWN. The show's executive producer is Juleka Lantigua. Our managing producer is Fatima El-Swifi. Shanice Tyndall is our lead producer. Associate producer is Mona Hassan. Jordan Thompson is our marketing coordinator. This episode was mixed by Trin Lightburn. Michelle Baker is our video editor. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope you did, please make sure to subscribe, leave a rating, and review wherever you listen to your podcast to ensure you hear the next one.